I've been involved in rowing before the Celtic Challenge, also in competitive rowing, because you see it's a very old tradition in Wicklow, with the oldest regatta in Ireland, I think, as far as I know. The skiff rowing events, but I knew nothing about that, you know. But a friend of mine, Eamon Kavanagh, and his brother Peter Kavanagh were working in Wicklow, and were a little bit stung by the Wicklow guys saying there has never been a proper oarsman out of Arklow. And the two sort of got promoted a little bit by Wicklow Rowing Club into the art of rowing, showing them how to pull a skiff.
Okay.
And in that process, the two of us, the two of them, involved me into the thought of founding an Arklow rowing club.
Okay.
So I was one of the founder members of Arklow Rowing Club from an early stage when we didn't have a boat. We were given a boat from Greystone's Rowing Club, which was sort of rotting away on the quayside a little bit, and we had our own skiff, the Shamrock, which Peter repaired. Peter is a boat builder, and so we could train properly. And in the first regatta not in Wicklow, I think. In the first regatta in Wicklow, we entered an Arklow team, and we weren't beaten out of sight, you know. So we weren't last in the race.
Okay.
Yeah.
But how long had you had your boat at that stage?
We had the boat maybe a year.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. And repaired and everything and training.
Yeah.
Okay.
And Peter started building its own skiff. He took measurements of the Mantan, the Wicklow boat, and he can do this. He's a totally gifted man. Yeah. And he built our first boat, the Dancer.
Okay.
And that was before the Celtic Challenge, you know. So with that boat we entered proper skiff races in Dublin, and our Dancer performed very well, you know. Not only with us, we were, I think, third or so in our race, but the Patrick's Rowing Club took a loan of our boat. Their junior team bet with our boat their senior team in the senior race, after they had run their own race before and won that as well. So that was for us the start in competitive rowing, you see. But the Celtic Challenge idea happened a little bit parallel to that, as Aberystwyth Rowing Club did two seagoing two crossings for charity. And on the 1991 crossing, I think they had the idea to throw the gauntlet and call it a race for future reference in 1993. And they wrote a letter to Jimmy Tyrrell, the Arklow lifeboat secretary. And Jimmy came with that letter into my bakery and said, "Egon, I think you can do it." Yeah. And it were the race rules. Well, he said, "Well, you are a guy who can make it happen. You know, it's not the race itself that was planned by Aberystwyth, but the start and the starting environment. Okay. You know, so and I was member of Arklow Sailing Club. So the first thing I did is I went into the sailing club and tried to recruit for us the support boat. We knew that we were entering, or we wanted to enter, two boats. One was still in the making, the same boat or the same copy of the Mantan as a second skiff. So Peter was working on the second boat. The first one was launched. And the Dancer was ready in January, I think. And that was in May was the race. You know? So we had two boats, and in Arklow Sailing Club we found the support for the the for the mother boats to support us, you know.
Yeah.
And
just reading through your list here, I can see. So this is the first the first Celtic Challenge in 1993 from an Arklow perspective, I suppose. The items which you were seeking: life jackets for 30 people, oars, marine radios,
everything,
buoyancy aids, compasses, high energy food and drinks for the crews, fuel for the support vessel, inflatable dinghies and outboards, postering and publicity materials, and cash donations to Arklow Lifeboat. Just start there, I suppose, what it was like for you after you got all this stuff together. What was it like from that point?
Well, it's a smashing vibe goes through your body, you know, whenever you focus onto the race itself. And on the race day, we had also St. Patrick's Rowing Club entering the Celtic Challenge, sorry. And I had a van, so I was shuttling between the sailing club on the far side of the river and an old boat yard here on this side of the river, where we accommodated more boats, like from Wales overnight. They had their parking station there. And St. Patrick's Rowing Club thought I'm the local bus service, you know. So they used me to shuttle between the sailing club and not so far away, the boatyard here.
Yeah.
And then they got I could see the shock in their face when they realized, oh, this is one of the contestants who rose for Arklow. Yeah. Because Eamon and I had a little bet in front of them who would be, because Eamon was the other Arklow boat and I was in this Arklow boat. Yeah. So we had a little bet who gets to the other side first and puts the pint up for his mate, you know.
Okay, Egon, so what was your experience like on that first? So you had your bet on your private bet.
Yeah.
And did you think you were gonna win?
I gave myself a fair chance, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Had you done a lot of training?
No,
beforehand?
because I have to say, Eamon gave myself the better crew.
Okay.
Arklow could have had one strong crew, one boat, one entry, and the chance to win the Celtic Challenge, or trying to win the Celtic Challenge.
How many people were in each crew? Was it 12 then?
12 people, yeah. But we didn't, at that time, we didn't know about the option to, or we didn't avail of the option to interchange the coxswain. So we had 2 designated coxswains and 10 rowers.
Okay.
And the 2 coxswains were doing all the steering and the rowers did all the rowing. None of us had done something like that before. So from sailing we knew that we can do 4 hours on, 4 hours off.
Okay.
And we had a little bit this notion of
4
4 hours on, 4 hours off.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. So you had no set plan as to how long you would stay rowing?
Not really,
Okay.
no.
So how long were you in the boat at the start line?
Yeah.
Okay.
I was sort of leader of my team, but we didn't have a coach on board the support vessel. It all had to be managed between us, you know.
Okay.
You don't feel the pain, really not. It's the anxiety which drives you. Yeah. It was a pretty chaotic morning because our daughters were abandoned by Mummy coxswain and Egon rowing, and a friend of us bailed us out. The godfather of my younger daughter and the godparents of my daughters. He drove the girls to Wales, so he took the ferry, and when we came to the other side, the girls were already there.
Wow.
and were accommodated by a Welsh family, Ray Shakespeare and Betty.
And you can see that when you get there, the welcoming committee isn't just for whichever boat arrives. It's for everyone, you know.
Yeah,
people stay there until the end, welcoming people in. It would be very easy to get something wrong as well in those positions.
Yeah.
But everybody knows that it's focus for one goal, which is everyone to get there safely.
On the first Celtic challenge, the whole idea was get across safe, and everyone is a winner if you come across safe. Yeah. And then when we got to the other side, the ladies' boat were last, and everyone was in, but not the ladies' boat. And the whole town was down on the quayside waiting for them. And then the word went around, they're still rowing. You know, they hadn't given up. You know, even though two boats had given up in the race because of weather conditions, which were pretty tough at one stage. You know, when the girls came in, they looked like a dead crab. You know, so they were not in sync anymore and tired.
Spider's legs.
Yeah. But there wasn't a tear, a dry eye in Aberystwyth, I think, on the quayside. You know, when they realized the girls being struggling, and I think they had been rowing 6 hours longer or 8 hours longer even than the first boat. Yeah. And this spirit of performance to get there and to complete the course, and also to give up when you can't make it. The training wasn't only focusing on speed, you know. We had more seamanship training in mind for our members, and it went even into the training of how to use a life jacket if you have to, or how to inflate a life jacket, you know. And in common use of radio, you know, the coxswains were all trained in how to use a compass, how to read a chart. Yeah. And we went so far, like in our first challenge, we had a few farmers who couldn't swim. And we said, oh Jesus, if they fall in the water, how do they react? So we pulled the boat out from the shore, put it on the anchor, and threw everyone over the side. They had to jump themselves, you know, and had to make their way to the shore again, so that they could experience cold shock, and how to get over that. If you haven't pulled in a person into an inflatable, you don't know how difficult it is, you know, because the body, the human being floats under it. You know, your legs go sort of in under the sponson, and when you try to pull yourself up, you sort of
cavitated underneath.
Yeah. And on the rowing boat, if you're pulling, the rowing boat is the next boat nearest to if somebody falls in the water. But if you are trying to take a person in on one side, a good number of crew have to counterbalance on the other side. You know, and this need to be trained. Or it should be trained, so that people know their positioning in the boat. Crew chairperson or the RIP people, that they have a basic sea survival course behind them, and look in all these aspects of survival. If in case we would pick up a little bit more of joy also when we just made it, rather than when we won it. So because it is a challenge, any of these races is a challenge, you know, and to get across to the far side safe and in style should be appreciated by everybody, you know.
I noticed this, that people were upset on the boat that we were on, and I was like, how can you be upset? you know, look what you've done. You
Yeah,
know what I mean?
yeah.
How can it even happen that somebody could be upset, you know? But it's built up in a different way.
How
in-
many
in their
minutes
mind.
were between them? I
Yeah.
can't remember.
Was it 4, 8?
Yeah.
You know, 4 or 8, not
Yeah,
even.
yeah. In the first Celtic challenge, the memory of having a common meal on shore in a Chinese restaurant, that was such a relief. You know, it was wonderful, and the meal never tasted so good
Okay.
like that one. Yeah.
Do you think you could still do it today?
No,
No.
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 I've been pulling out of competitive rowing, and that would be probably counterproductive to mention. But if you're out of competitive rowing, you're also out of constant training. So, as I told you before, in relation to my walking, I'm not training parts of my body enough to sustain a Celtic challenge. You know.
Yeah.
I would still fit in for half the race, but not for the full duration.
Yeah.
No good.
And some of the.
It's not recommendable.
What things would you have as recommendations for training, like that night open sea?
No, you see, I don't like to overdo it. But
I know, yeah.
But there is a course on the planet. It's called the Basic Sea Survival course.
Okay.
And probably that at least some of the crew, not all the crew, but the crew chairperson or the RIP people, that they have a Basic Sea Survival course behind them, and look in all these aspects of survival. You know. I have been doing Basic Sea Survival courses myself. I arranged 1 or 2 of them, or 3. And I trained also the Atlantic rowers in that 1-day Basic Sea Survival course. Not more than that. It's a simple thing, you know. But when Gerard Toy and Kieron Lewis had their misfortunate capsize in the middle of the ocean, and the boat broke apart on them. The first thing they said when they came back, they were rescued by a Spanish, as far as I know, a Spanish freighter. And the first thing they said is, we remembered our teacher in Arklow.
Really? Yeah.
And when they surfaced.
Yeah, that's a good accolade to have.
Yeah. And the Royal Yachting Association published this, and it went around the world, you know. So.